Hi, everyone. I'm going to give us a minute or so for those who are joining to get into the webinar and get themselves situated. So just be patient for a minute or so. All right, so I'm going to get started. My name is Kathy Fox, and I am the Assistant Dean of Admissions at Wayne State University Law School. And I want to thank you for joining us for this information session today, so I can give you a little bit of information about how you apply to Wayne Law. I also want to welcome Admissions Ambassador Christina Woodward, who is joining us on this webinar. She's going to give you the student perspective, and she is a recent 2021 graduate of the law school who is currently studying for her bar exam. So everyone wish her well on that. So let's get started. If you are, we would love to have you introduce yourself to us. So drop your responses in our chat box. We'll take questions and everything in our chat box. Give us your name, your year in school, and your area of legal interest. So when you are thinking about applying to law school, when is the time to get started is what we're going to discuss, and where and when do you begin? So applications for the current fall of 2021 remain open. So if you are thinking that you want to come this fall, we definitely want you to apply. There are some seats left in the class, and I encourage you to think about that and getting your application material in. That application period will remain open until August 1st of this year. If you're here thinking that you want to apply for next year to start in the fall of 2022, that application will open on September 1st. So keep that in mind. If you want to apply for next year, 2022, you're going to want to wait until at least September 1st before you submit that application. We do have rolling admissions, so you can see that our application period opens on September 1st, the year before you would begin law school, and closes August 1st, the month before you would begin law school. And we do make decisions as we go. We do not begin releasing decisions until January of each year. So keep that in mind. If you do apply early, you're not going to hear from us for a few months, but we do look at applications in the order that they come in. So the earlier you get it in, the earlier you're going to have us look at it. I can tell you some people will immediately hear of their decisions right in January or February. Some people, even if you applied in September, you won't hear until later in the spring or even into the summer. That is done very intentionally. If you don't hear anything, it means your application continues to be under consideration as we work to build our class. Probably the best piece of advice I can give you about applying to law school whenever you're going to decide to do so is to plan ahead. So the first step you should be thinking about when you want to apply to law school is the law school admissions test, or the more common name is the LSAT. So if you are taking the June LSAT test, that's here, oh gosh, probably in a week or so. If you've signed up for it already, you can't sign up for it anymore, but if you have, we will accept that test for this fall 2021. That is actually an LSAT Flex test that was developed during the pandemic so that individuals could take their test in their home or in an environment where they could remain quarantined or, not in a big public space. And it was shortened in order to accommodate that home testing design. On that test, you'll have one reading comprehension section, one logical reasoning section, and one analytical reasoning, which is the logic games. The score ranges from 120 to 180. As part of this test, there's also one 35-minute unscored writing sample that you can do separately. Please know that your score will not be released to any law school until you complete that writing sample. And this June 2020 administration is the last time that they're going to use the LSAT Flex. The test format will change beginning in August. So beginning in August of 2021, they will go from 3 35-minute multiple choice sections to 4 35-minute multiple choice sections. So you'll have the 3 scored sections and 1 unscored section. So you'll still have 1 reading comprehension section, 1 logical reasoning section, and 1 analytical reasoning or logic game section. There will be a short break between the second and third sections. And this online live remote proctored format is going to last through at least June of 2022. The LSAC, the Law School Admissions Council, the organization that develops and administers the LSAT, has released all of the test dates through June of 2022. So you can really plan ahead and sign up for the test when you want to, when it best accommodates your schedule. So how do you prepare for an LSAT? The first thing you want to do is think about how do you study best. Second, you want to think about what is your budget. And the best piece of advice I can give you is practice, practice, practice. The LSAC has a partnership with Khan Academy where there is free LSAT prep materials on Khan Academy. What I suggest is before you spend any money on an LSAT, you go there and you take a look at what they have. The most important thing that they do have is a practice LSAT that you can take as a diagnostic. The LSAT is a test that is a skills-based test. It's not a materials-based test. So you don't need to know math formulas. You don't need to know things about science. You just need to be able to read and write, analyze, think, and be logical. So you don't have to have the academic background to prepare for it, but you do need to do a lot of practice. So in order to see where you stand on the test, the best thing to do is that diagnostic. I actually recommend that students do a diagnostic the first time without any preparation, just to see where they fall. Some people just naturally have this ability, and maybe they come in and they score like a 155 right out of the gate. Well, then you probably don't need to spend thousands of dollars on prep materials and prep courses, but it'll give you a good idea of where you stand. You can spend a lot of money on the LSAT preparation. So really think about what you want to do and then think about how you study best. At some point, they'll start offering live classes again. Some people really enjoy that. Some people enjoy individual one-on-one tutoring. Some people can just get some workbooks and practice. There's a lot of different resources that you can take a look. Most of them you can find online and really think about what you need. But the best advice, like I said earlier, is to do as many practice questions as you can. So you learn the format, you learn how to take the test. The other part of preparing for the test is practicing in time constraints. What makes a test so challenging for individuals is that they don't practice under a time constraint. Maybe they do 10 practice questions, they see that they're getting 90% of them right, and they feel really good, but it took them 2 hours to do that. Remember, you're looking at those questions in a 35-minute period for those 3, now 4 sections. So to really get the test score that you want, you have to be able to do them quickly, which is part of the practice, is to time yourself like the test is timed. To register for the LSAT, you're going to want to go to lsac.org. That's, like I said earlier, the Law School Admissions Council, and they have everything you need to know about the test, as well as preparing for the test, things you should be thinking about as you apply to law school, and even what you should be thinking about as you look for a career in the law. It's a really great resource that you should definitely take a look at. So the LSAT scores right now for Wayne Law's entering class of 2021, which will be here in about 2 months, these are the LSAT scores that our class has. So our media, the average score of our class now is a 161. Our 25th percentile is a 158, and our 75th percentile is a 164. I can tell you that not everyone has those scores. Those are just ranges and a median, but you are going to be thinking about those scores as you are practicing for the LSAT for application to Wayne Law. So application materials. We offer a number, or we ask for a number of different components to your application. The first is the free law school online application, which we have accessible on our website. If you Google apply Wayne Law, it'll take you right to that website and it'll get you started. And that application is very similar to any application you filled out in the past. We're going to ask for your name, where you live, where you worked, where you've gone to school, just all that basic information. We also are going to ask for a personal statement, a resume, something called a JD CAS or Credential Assembly service report, as well as addendums. And I'm going to keep scrolling to talk about each one of those specifically. First of all, let's talk about the personal statement. This is where we get the most questions. What is a personal statement? How do I write a personal statement? How do I decide what to write a personal statement about? This is really an important piece of your application, because it's one place where you get to tell us about yourself in the way that you want to. It is a short piece of writing that provides insight into who you are, what kind of thinker you are, and most importantly, what kind of student are you going to be at Wayne Law? These should be short. We're not looking for novels. We're looking for short writings of about 2 to 3 pages in length, double spaced. Some people will approach a personal statement telling us why they want to go to law school. Some people will approach a personal statement telling us about a life experience that has made them or shaped them into the person they are. Some people will tell us about all the different life experiences that have shaped them into the person they are. But the most important thing you want to communicate in that statement is who you are and what you want to do as a lawyer, as a law student, and who you will be in our community. How you decide to do that is really up to you, but it is your chance to sell yourself to the admissions committee. At Wayne Law, we do have a faculty admissions committee that looks at files, and they take their personal statement very seriously. One of the other things that a good personal statement does is it demonstrates your writing ability. One of the most important skills that you're going to need as a lawyer is the ability to write. So it's very important that when you do that personal statement, it's as perfect as you can make it. It's okay to have your personal statement reviewed, critiqued, having individuals look at it, so that way you don't send us something that's got grammar errors, spelling errors, things like that. The only thing that we cannot do is we cannot help you prepare your personal statement. We can't read it ahead of time, and we can't do any critiques on it. But we do encourage you to use every resource at your fingertips to help you make the best statement you can. So how do you get started on that personal statement? The first thing you do is you brainstorm and you free write. Come up with a couple ideas and just write. Then you want to think about some self-reflection. What details of your life have shaped you most? Who has been instrumental in helping you become the person you are? What are your major goals? What have you overcome? Think in terms of past, present, and future. Past tells us about your background. It's very much like a resume. Present tells us about your academic interests. What are you doing and thinking about, either in undergrad or why you want to go to law school? In future, you want to tell us about what it is you see yourself doing with a law degree. What do you write about? Some good areas to write about include work and service experience, time that you've spent abroad, any adversity that you've overcome, anything in your life that has made an impact and changed or made you the person you are. Ask yourself, what impression am I trying to leave on the reader? Writing tips. Follow the prompts and instructions. Every law school has some sort of writing on their application, and they're going to tell you exactly what they want you to write. Don't just have one standard statement, because some schools may ask for very different statements than other schools. Write it like a story, less like a college essay. I want you to tell me something about yourself, and I want you to make it interesting. I literally read thousands of essays every year, and I can tell you the ones that are more story-like and have a good hook to it will keep me interested. Be personal, but don't be overly personal or graphic, and focus on your positive attributes. Tell us the things that make you who you are and why that makes you a unique candidate for Wayne Law. Writing tip don'ts. Do not wait until the last minute. Get feedback from the people you trust and edit your personal statement several times. Don't just rewrite your resume. You can tell us information about your background, but you also have to do a resume for this application. So I don't need just a resuscitation of what you've done when, excuse me. And don't try to cover too many topics. It's a 2 to 3 page statement. So, try to really be focused on what it is you're telling us. Something to think about. The personal statement can make an already strong application even stronger and be the tipping point. But a personal statement by itself cannot make a weak application into a strong application. So make sure you focus on the entire application in its entirety. The remaining application materials. So we do ask for a resume. I come from a law school career services background before I came to admissions, so a resume is really important to me. I want to know about your education, your work history, and your volunteer experience. I really like it to be a quick and easy one-page roadmap so I can see what you've done. If you are a second career student coming back to law school, a 2-page resume is fine. But something that I can reference while I'm reading your personal statement and looking at your application and your letters of recommendation. Please note that a good resume is in reverse chronological order, which means that your resume is laid out from your most recent experience going backwards in time to the experience that's most far in the past. So application materials do include your transcripts. Transcripts from all post-secondary institutions must be sent directly by your school to LSAC for your CAS report. So we received something from the Law School Admissions Council called the JD Credential Assembly Service Report. And that is going to include your LSAT score, your transcripts, and your letters of recommendation. So your transcript shouldn't be sent directly to us, and it shouldn't be sent directly by you to LSAC. You will need to go to the registrar's office at your undergraduate university, and you will have them send it directly to LSAC. Once you apply for the LSAT and you'll see all of that information, they will tell you exactly how to do this. If you have postgraduate degrees, you went and got your MBA, you got a PhD, we do want to see those transcripts. We do want them sent to LSAC as part of your JD CAS report, but they will not be used to compute your overall GPA for law school admissions purposes. We only look at your undergraduate work when it comes to the GPA that will be used for you being admitted to law school. Just to give you an idea right now of where my entering class of 2021 stands, my median GPA is a 3.76, my 25th percentile is a 3.49, and my 75th percentile is a 3.87. Once again, please note, it doesn't mean that every applicant or every admit or student that's planning to attend has those credentials, but those tend to be the medians and the averages for the class. Letters of recommendation. We do require 2 letters of recommendation, but we will accept up to 4. If you have been out of school since 2019, we are going to ask that you provide at least 1 academic letter of recommendation. That is required. If you've been out of school longer since 2019, you don't have to provide an academic letter, but I can tell you that my faculty committee absolutely looks at letters of recommendation that are from a professor and academic as the most important part of your application. So you should look to have at least 1. If you can have 2, that's even better. If you've been out of school for a long time and you don't have those, that's absolutely fine. You can look to an employer or somebody who can write a letter and tell us about all of the strengths that you have that are necessary to succeed in law school. Are you good at writing? Are you good at problem solving? Are you good at communicating, writing, speaking, selling, whatever it is? You'll definitely want to have that. When talking to individuals about letters of recommendation, please note that most professors have written them, but if you are asking someone that isn't in an academic setting, you're going to want to talk to them about what a letter of recommendation for law school looks like. And a really good idea is to give them your resume and your personal statement so they can write their letter based on your actual background. Tell them to be detailed and give specific examples and information about your skill set. An example I always like to use is a salesperson who decides they want to come back to law school. What are the traits that have made you successful as a salesperson that will make you successful as an attorney? The number one I think of is your ability to convince. your ability to close a deal. Those are all really important things for a future lawyer. So think like that. You are more than welcome to call the office and we'll talk you through some more information about what you can ask a recommender to put into your letter of recommendation, or kind of talk to you about your specific background and what a letter should look like. Addendums. We do leave open on your application a number of places where you can write more information about yourself. I always think the more you can write to us, the better, but be very thoughtful when you have these addendums. We do leave space for an LSAT addendum and a GPA addendum. That's if something happened that you want to tell us about. Maybe you didn't have a very successful first LSAT test taking experience. Maybe your GPA was off a semester because you had someone who was ill in your family that you had to take care of. Whatever the reason is, you should definitely tell us about that. We also do require addendums for character and fitness purposes. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. So 3 years down the road, when you're graduating from law school and you're going to apply to sit for your bar exam, which you will need to take in order to get your law license to practice, they will ask you a number of questions on your bar application, and an organization as part of the state bar called the Character and Fitness Committee will take a look at your application. There are certain areas that you have to disclose as an attorney because we have a fiduciary duty to take care of our clients. So we must show that we are fit in order to do that. So first of all, please err on the side of disclosure. If you think you need to ask someone if you should disclose, that usually means you should disclose. Take time to reflect and be truthful. The number one tip I can give you is take responsibility for your actions. We don't want to read about how it was somebody else's fault or a police officer did something. Take responsibility and also take the time to tell us how you have corrected the situation and how you will not do anything like that in the future. The duty to disclose goes throughout your application process and throughout law school. So from the moment you apply to law school, you have a duty to keep the law school informed of anything that happens. Contact schools directly to inquire about if you need to disclose something. Do not rely on your gut, because 9 times out of 10, your gut's going to be wrong. So at Wayne Law, the areas that we ask you to disclose on your application, and there's 2 questions that pertain to each of these. The first is, have you had any academic dishonesty or misconduct? You need to disclose that. That includes also if you have been put on probation or if you had to take a semester off, whatever that is. Secondly, we're going to ask you for any criminal background. So that includes any time that you were arrested, any time that you were charged, or any time that thing that you have on your record. So step 3, you have taken the LSAT, you have gotten all your application materials together. Then the next thing that you need to do is apply. Like I said earlier, rolling admissions. You will want to confirm your admissions deadlines with each school because they're different. And missing those deadlines could mean missing a seat. Like I said, applications open in fall for the following year. So for fall of 2022, if that's when you want to start law school, your application period will open at Wayne Law through on September 1 of 2021. So this is upcoming September. We also have a priority scholarship deadline, which is typically March 15th. That is when we will consider all applicants for scholarship funds and scholarship awards. If you apply after that date, then there may be no scholarship funds left at that point. And then applications for fall typically close on August 1. So anyone who's thinking about applying for this coming fall, 2021, you have to have that application in by August 1st. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why you should choose Wayne Law. The first reason is that you will receive an outstanding legal education. It is one of the most well-regarded law schools in the nation. We currently rank 72 on the US News rankings, and we've gone up over 28 slots in the last 3 years. We are a best value law school 7 years in a row, and that's because we are number 14 in the nation for law schools with the lowest ratio of debt to your starting salary, which means you take out less money for a lower tuition, and that way you come out with less debt, and then the salary that you make for most of our graduates is much higher than other schools. We are #1 in Michigan for July 2020 overall bar pass rate. Wayne Law overall was 90%, whereas the state of Michigan overall was 70%. And our first time takers in July had a 93% bar pass rate. The cost for this past academic year was about $35,000 for in-state students and $38,000 for out-of-state. We have the lowest tuition rate in the state of Michigan. And I will tell you, it is not uncommon at this point to see schools asking for tuition upwards of $65,000 a year. So even before you factor in scholarship awards, oftentimes we are half the cost of many other schools. And annually, we award more than $7 million in scholarships. And each year we bring in about 120 to 130 students. So there is ample scholarship opportunities for you if you decide to apply. Wayne Law also is very flexible. We have 3 different programs. We have a full-time day program, which is your traditional law school path, a part-time evening program, and then we also have a combined day evening program. We also have a number of joint JD opportunities and LLM opportunities in corporate and finance law, labor and employment law, tax, and US law. And we do offer a number of dual degrees, meaning you can get 2 graduate degrees. For instance, you can get your MBA, you can get your master's in criminal justice, master's in dispute resolution, master's in economics, or master's in history and political science. We also are willing to work with you, and we will allow you to take some classes in other graduate studies at Wayne State University so you can develop your own curriculum, and you can also come out with an expertise that is different. Oftentimes we'll see students who maybe want to take some social work courses because they want to go into, say, family law, or they want to go into public defense or something along those lines. Practical training. We have a number of clinics that you can get experience with a faculty member overseeing your work and giving you advice and helping you figure out how do you practice in these areas. These include asylum and immigration law, business and community law. We have a criminal appellate practice clinic. We have a disability law clinic. We have a legal advocacy for people with cancer clinic, which is one of the most unique clinics in the entire country. We also have an immigration appellate advocacy clinic, a community advocacy clinic, and we also have the new Holistic Defense Partnership, which is lawyering in the nation's capital externship. Some of the other things that make Wayne Law really attractive is our location. We are located in Midtown Detroit, which is just minutes from downtown Detroit. And since we are near downtown, we are near all of the top law firms, courthouses, Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, and government agencies. So while you are a student, I can tell you in your 2nd and 3rd year, the majority of Wayne Law students work or intern in the city of Detroit, gaining experience in their chosen practice fields. So you can literally go to class in the morning, get on the queue line, and go downtown to a courthouse, to a law firm, or to a company and work in the afternoon. It's very convenient, and it gets our students a lot of job opportunities. So without further ado, I would like to give you the perspective of one of our most successful students. Please allow me to introduce 2021 graduate and JD Admissions Ambassador, Christina Woodward.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, so my name's Christina. I just graduated this past May. It was very fulfilling to finally graduate, and then I am stuck in the middle of studying for the bar. So bear with me while I just kind of talk a little bit about, my experience applying to law school and then why I chose Wayne Law. So my experience is, I am actually from Florida. I attended my undergrad in Florida, and I knew I wanted to be a lawyer eventually, and I wasn't sure the process for that. So like you guys are doing here, I reached out to the law schools. I reached out to the people at my undergrad to figure out, the sources, the resources I would need and the application materials that I would need. And it feels kind of overwhelming at first. Definitely you're like, oh, I got to do a personal statement. I need my letters of recommendation. But the best thing that helped me in preparing these documents and having everything ready to go for the application, like time when the application's opened, was making a checklist specific to each school. So I only applied to about 5 or 10 schools, but most, some students will apply to more than that. And it's really hard to remember those application deadlines or how many letters of recommendations you need for each school. So the best thing I can say to you is to make an Excel spreadsheet with all the schools that you want to attend, and then put their application deadlines in there and the application materials you need, so that at any point in time when you're like, oh, where am I at with all of this? You can just pull up that sheet and reference it so that you don't miss a deadline, because as Dean Fox mentioned, if you miss a deadline, that could be your seat, and you don't want that to happen. So I really recommend making that Excel spreadsheet and kind of listing out everything that you need for each school, and just having that at the ready. I actually wound up taking a gap year between my undergrad and law school, and that was because law school is a commitment. You want to go into law school and be able to focus 100% on the information that you're learning. So I took a gap year to save up my money and get ready to go in full force and learn constitutional law, which is fun, but it's a lot. So I had to have all these materials ready, but I knew I was going to be out of school for a year before I actually submitted my application. So I started my senior year, the fall of my senior undergrad year, I started asking my professors for these letters of recommendation. And I started working on my personal statement so that I would have the opportunity to have my professors or English majors review my personal statement and make sure that my grammar's right. And the best thing I think that I did with my personal statement was I had the professors who I had close relationships read them over and tell me how they are, fix my grammar and stuff. But then I also had professors with whom I wasn't very close, but just had taken a class with, read my personal statement and tell me what they gathered from my personal statement. What kind of person did I come off as in that personal statement? Because that's going to be who's reading your personal statement, is people who don't know you. So I felt like having that perspective from the professors who did know me and the professors who I didn't really know that well gave me a good balance to figure out what kind of person I'm putting myself out there as, so that when I apply to the law school, I know how they're going to be viewing me based on my personal statement. So preparing all those documents ahead of time before the application opens is super great, because it allows you to apply earlier in the admissions cycle, because as here at Wayne Law, we do the rolling admissions. So having all those documents prepared before the application opens, having them reviewed by professors, even peer review helps, especially when it comes to grammar and things like that. And getting those letters of recommendations early so that you're not waiting on anyone when you want to apply. I think those were really helpful. And again, I'll just emphasize that Excel spreadsheet with all the schools, all the deadlines, and all the application materials was probably the most helpful thing for me, because I didn't miss a single deadline, and it made it really easy for me to just keep track of where I am. So don't get overwhelmed with the application process. It can feel like a lot, but if you put everything in one place, you'll get through it, and you won't even remember it by the time you get done with law school. So you'll get through this. But then a little bit about why I chose Wayne Law. So as I mentioned, I'm from Florida. So I'm used to the sun, the sand, 90-degree weather. I guess we're having that today, but 90-degree weather with the beaches nearby. But law school is an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your future. And you want to make sure that where you're investing is important. You don't want to invest in a school that's not going to give you a good return on your investment. So when I was, making my list of the schools that I was interested in applying to, I was considering location. Was it somewhere where I wanted to live for the next 10 years of my life? Is that where I want to be? Because while you can take the bar exam in different jurisdictions, it's not automatically transferable to each state. So you got to think about where you want to be. Next, I was considering, well, what's the cost of the education? Because as Dean Fox mentioned, it can be upwards of $60,000 for just some of them. So you got to make sure that where you're applying, you have a good opportunity for scholarship, or that the cost isn't going to outweigh the return that you're going to get when you graduate. So that was another thing I was looking at. And then I was looking at, well, what is the career opportunities look like once I graduate? Are most people getting employed? Are they actually using their JD degree? Like, these are the things that I was considering. And then lastly was the bar passage rate, because most of the time you go to law school, not just for the JD, but also to pass the bar exam and be admitted to practice as an attorney in that state. So I wanted to look at the bar passing rates. So when I was considering all these things, Wayne Law was a obvious choice. For me to go out of state to Wayne Law was cheaper for me than to go in state at some of the Florida universities. So that was a win for me. Second, I knew my education was going to be high quality. At the time when I was applying, I think it was 5 years in a row that had been ranked a best value law school. Now it's 7. So I knew I was going to be getting a good education that was going to prepare me for life practicing as an attorney. And then the next thing I looked at was the careers. Wayne Law has a huge alumni network within Michigan and Southeast Michigan, but all over Michigan, really. Every job that I have worked while I have been at Wayne Law, at least one, if not multiple, of my bosses or other attorneys or clerks have all come from Wayne Law. So you know that by being affiliated with Wayne Law, you're going to be in a network where we all want to help each other out. So that was a big bonus for me when I was, making my inquiries about what are my career prospects going to look like. And then lastly, and the one that I think was probably one of the bigger factors for me, second only to cost, was the bar pass rate, because I knew I wanted to practice law. I didn't just want a JD to help me get a job that would be a bonus. I wanted to actually practice the law, and I needed a school that was going to give me the skills to help me prepare for the bar exam. And Wayne Law does that. I mean, 93% of our first-time test takers are passing the bar on the first try. So that was a big thing. And those are the things that I considered when I was attending law school was this going to be a good return on my investment, because my future was worth investing in, but I wanted to make sure that I was going to invest it in the right place. And that's why I chose Wayne Law, because it was the right place for me. And I'm sure it will be the right place for you. So get your application materials ready, and we'll love to see your application for the coming fall.
Dean Fox, you're muted.
Thanks. Thank you, Christina, for speaking and telling everyone about your experience at Wayne Law and why you chose Wayne Law. And now I'd like to introduce Kaylee Place. She is our Director of Communication, and she's going to help us answer some questions.
Hi, everybody. So I am just going to pull questions from the Q&A and things that were submitted in advance, and I will punt them to Dean Fox and Christina, depending on the question. So I think, Dean Fox, this one's probably for you. We have a student who wants to know if they take the LSAT and if I want to take the LSAT in August, and if I just started studying, am I behind?
The answer to that is absolutely not. Most people will take a month or two to study for the LSAT, maybe 3 months. So you definitely have the amount of time. If you want to commit 3, 4, 5 hours a day, if you've got that, you should definitely think about doing it. And I'm going to recommend that the best way to practice studying is to actually do questions. I'm going to put this one to Christina, since she's a lot closer to having taken the LSAT, to talk about how she prepared.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Dean Fox. I think that, you want to be spending the time studying it, and I don't think you're at all behind. I studied for about 2 months, 4 to 5 hours a day, and I got admitted. But you kind of want to do a self-assess where you do those problems, because the problems are going to be on the exam. So you want to be practicing those problems. And if you find that you're not improving at a quick enough rate, then maybe you need to go back and review more of the skills in the LSAT. I don't know if you're using a prep course, but if you're using the Khan Academy, maybe they'll have resources in there that you could review to figure out how you can improve your score. But really the best thing that you could do, and it's what I did, was practice the problems, do the logic games, do the reading and comprehension, but just keep doing that, because that's the only way that you're going to improve your skills. So
another tip that comes to that is, when you're doing those practice questions, really spend time on the answers. It's not just doing the questions. It's either learning how you got a question wrong and what the right answer is, And even when you have right answers and you were correct, you should still spend some time in the answer because maybe your logic wasn't quite what they were thinking and you got there a different way or you just got lucky. So really spend time in studying not only the questions, but the why behind the answer.
So our next question is, if your GPA is high, but LSAT is lower than the ones on the chart that was showed, do you still have a chance at getting in? So I think that's probably a Dean Fox question.
The answer is absolutely. Those numbers are parameters. It's about the mid-range of our class. So I can tell you in the current class of students that are admitted, I've got a 145 up to a 175. Okay, so that full range of scores is in there. I also have a 2.65 upwards to a 4.0 plus. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have those numbers. It's just where everybody falls in our class. If you have one or the other, that's a good thing. If you don't have either, that's okay. But then you want to think about what we call those soft factors, that holistic review that law schools do. It's not all about the scores. It's also about you as a person and your background. So maybe the scores aren't great, but you know what? You have other things that are just rock star status, and we're going to admit you because of that. So really take the time to think about how do you present yourself in your application.
So this is a logistical question about the Credential Assembly service. This person's wondering if they can register for it anytime. They took the LSAT in April, but don't plan to purchase the service until they start applying in September.
I think that's fine. Honestly, that would be a question you want to go to LSAC for because they manage that. I don't know how long it takes them to put the CAS report together. So I would assume getting your materials there sooner than later. And then find out from them how soon do you have to purchase it before the law school start to get it.
Okay, so we have someone who has been out of school for over 6 years, and they're wondering if you have any tips for designing a personal statement.
I think we covered that pretty well in the information provided, but what I would really talk about is what have you been doing in these last 6 years? Why do you want to go to law school? What kind of jobs you've had? Try to find maybe a pattern of what you've been doing that's led you to law school.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure if we touched on this one because I was having technical difficulties, but since I have completed graduate studies after finishing undergrad, which transcripts should I submit?
All of them. You need to submit your undergraduate transcript as well as all of your graduate transcripts. Bear in mind that we will only use the undergraduate transcript to determine your GPA for admissibility, but we want to see all of your past work. And I can tell you that more times than not, looking at the totality of the application and seeing how well you did, especially in your most recent academic experience, your graduate program, will help you be admitted. We're just not going to use that GPA as part of the credentials we use for admitting and ultimately for scholarship determination.
So this next question is for Christina, and it's about the personal statement. So to the extent you're comfortable answering this, Christina, please do. But otherwise, I think if you have any other pointers you want to provide on that, this person is wondering what you focused on when you wrote your personal statement.
It's hard to remember now because it's been several years. But if I remember correctly, I think the approach I took was to talk about my personal development and how I think this is what I did. I talked about my personal development and how, at work, I wanted to be like better, but in order to get better, I had to figure out where I was at and then actually apply myself to apply principles that would better myself as a person, and then talked about how I moved up at work and how I would use that same philosophy at law school, determining where I'm at and then applying principles and skills to better myself to become the best attorney that I could be, if I remember correctly. But that was kind of the approach that I took, was working on making myself the best possible version of myself and how I go about doing that.
Thanks, Christina. I have a couple questions that we may have already touched on, but they're probably worth repeating. So what is an acceptable length of the personal statement?
2 to 3 pages, double spaced.
Short and sweet.
Yep.
What is the turnaround time for an admissions decision after Wayne Law receives a completed application?
It can be a week, it can be 7 months. There's really no time frame that we give ourselves. We try to do 6 to 8 weeks, but ultimately when we're putting together a class and we're doing rolling admissions and we're awarding scholarships, it takes time. We always welcome a call to the office to check in. But ultimately, what I can tell you is that no news is good news. And the longer you don't hear, it means you are significantly under consideration and we're just looking at the class. You have to remember, as we're making holistic reviews of your application, we're putting together an entire class. We're looking for a diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of background. And that sometimes takes time. And so if you haven't heard, we encourage you to call. But I also want to tell you that I often hear, oh, law school ghosted me. Law school didn't ghost you. Law school is putting together a class and thinking about who they want to admit. And oftentimes rolling admissions means I only have so many seats. And so as I roll, I can't make more offers until people accept the seats that I've put out there. So the best thing you can do is continue to communicate of your continued interest. I have students who apply in September and I won't admit them till June or July, and they stay in contact. They let me know. Some students don't like that. Some students make other decisions. I'd also recommend, as you're making those decisions with schools, that you let the schools that you've applied to know where you've decided, so that way those schools can focus on the students that really want to have those seats. But we don't really have a specific time frame. We will take as much time as necessary to give your application and every applicant's application the fullest consideration. And like I said, call and ask if you want to know where you're at in the process.
Great. So this question is from someone who has been a stay-at-home mom for about 12 years, and she's really worried about the resume part of the application. So do you have any pointers that you could give her to help with her lack of a resume?
That I wouldn't worry about so much for your law school application, especially at Wayne Law. You should really think about crafting a personal statement that can kind of explain where you've been, what you've been doing, and then also where it is, and focus mostly on what it is you want to do with law school and why you want to go to law school. Once you get to Wayne Law, we have a really strong career services office, and they'll help you craft a resume. And the nice thing about going to law school is it kind of gives you a restart or start over on your career, which is a really good thing.
All right, so we have somebody who doesn't feel like they were very extracurricularly involved in undergrad, and they're wondering if that'll hinder their application if their LSAT and GPA are strong.
Maybe, maybe not. It's really hard to make those assessments without looking at the totality of your application. But if you've got strong test scores, that's a really important factor. So what you're going to really want to think about doing then is writing a very strong personal statement that tells us other things that maybe not being in extracurriculars might have told us.
Okay, so we have a letter of recommendation question. This person has been out for several years and they're wondering, they have an old letter from a professor and they're wondering if that would work, and if it should be more recent because it's been so long.
It definitely should be more recent. I mean, you can add it, but the question my faculty committee will ask is, why is it this more recent? If I could give you a tip, tell your letter writers not to date them. Then nobody, it's not a problem. I would say 3 or 4 or 5 years dated, we start to wonder why you don't have a more recent letter.
Great. So scholarship question, will scholarship offers be included with the initial admissions decision?
Yes, we will do that until we run out of scholarship money and or March 15th, whichever comes first. We have always been able to consider any applicant who has applied by March 15th. Did I say March 1st? I meant March 15th. Then we can make that decision. If you apply on March 16th or later, I can't make that guarantee. And I can tell you this year we had a very large and robust applicant pool, and we made those decisions and we made those offers. And now, we are making decisions that, do we have the scholarship money? Do we not have the scholarship money? And every year it depends on who accepts our offers, who doesn't. But the best piece of advice I can give you is apply by March 15th.
Okay, so we have a couple more transcript questions. One person is wondering if we accept pass grades from the COVID pandemic, and if they have withdrawals on their transcript, should they write an addendum?
So we definitely accept the COVID pass grades that have been going on. We understand what's been happening in our world, and we make every accommodation to understand that. And as we look at your application with a withdrawal, I would tell you, if you have one, maybe two, I don't think it's necessary. If it's a pattern on your transcript, if you have a lot of low grades with withdrawals, if there's something that happened to you that caused some of those lower grades or those withdrawals, you should definitely add an addendum. It is not uncommon for students that have those issues on their transcripts who don't write an addendum for myself or graduate specialist Jill Burnett to reach out to you and say your application won't be considered until you supply this supplemental addendum. Always err on the side of disclosing and explaining what happened.
Unmute difficulties. So we have somebody who's scheduled to take the June LSAT flax, but they've not had much time to study. They're wondering if you would recommend waiting to take the test at a later sitting like August or October, or should they take the June test and then retest if the scores are not in the 160 range?
Honestly, that's really a personal decision, and it's kind of school by school. I can tell you that we take the highest LSAT score. So if you decide you want to retest down the road, you definitely can. I can tell you that we are always impressed with a student who is able to increase their test score over one test to another. Sometimes we see people do it 10, 15 points, which is really impressive. But whether you have enough time to study, whether you should push it back, that's all dependent on your schedule and what you feel you need to do in order to be successful. The one caveat I will tell you is the June 2021 LSAT is the last score we will accept for fall 2021. So if you think you want to apply this fall, I think you have to think about taking the test. If you're looking for fall of 2022, then you can definitely postpone it and try to take it at a time that's more accommodating to your schedule.
Okay, so we have a couple criminal history questions. So one is, do we accept students with a criminal history? And if you have an arrest but no charges and an expungement of arrest, do you need to disclose this information?
We absolutely have accepted many students who have criminal records. That should never deter you. And you don't, if it was just charges, you should disclose all of it. If it was expunged, you should disclose it. And the reason we ask for that, one is when you are going to apply for your bar exam in your third year, what's going to happen is, and this is the State Bar of Michigan I'm going to use because that's where we're located, but they're going to make you sign a release, and you sign that release, they're going to come and they're going to ask us to provide your law school application in its totality. And that's the first piece of your bar application. And then what they're going to do is they're going to look side by side at these, okay? And I can tell you their questions are much more extensive than our questions, but they're going to look and they're going to say, oh, you had an expungement, but you didn't tell the law school. Oh, you had a shoplifting charge, but you didn't tell the law school. The worst thing you can do for the bar is to be dishonest in any way possible. And dishonesty also includes just not telling, right? By withholding information, it's still considered dishonest. It may be completely innocent on your part, but like I said earlier, err on the side of disclosure. If you're not sure, call the law school. We'll talk you through it. I don't need to see your 5 speeding tickets. I do need to see the DUI, right? I don't need to see the fact that you had maybe one moving violation, but I do need to see the fact that you had a shoplifting charge or arrest when you were 16. These are the things you should be thinking about.
Great. So we have another kind of 2-for-1 question. Can I attend law school while working full-time? And what does the part-time evening law school schedule look like?
Yep, great question. You absolutely can go to law school while working full-time, but we strongly encourage you to do the part-time program. If you're thinking about going full-time, you'll want to commit at least your first year of law school to full-time studies. In your second and third year of a traditional program, our traditional program, you could work, and most law students do. For the part-time program, which you would be looking at for, say, your first semester starting in the fall, you would be looking at classes on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evening. And most students are able to finish the part-time program in 4.5 to 5 years, but it can take upwards of 6. The students that finish it sooner find that they get the hang of law school and get into the groove, and then they just take classes more quickly. Some students will do the part-time for the first year or two and then realize they need to stop their full-time job in order to go get real legal law experience, and then that changes their time frame of when they can and can't take classes. But yes, you can work full-time on the part-time program. You should expect 3 nights a week, at least for your first couple of years. Then you start creating your own schedule and you can kind of dictate the way you want it to, but you will want to expect evening classes because that's how it happens.
Okay, so, and this is one that I would kind of like to tag team with you, Dean Fox, but we have a prospective student who wants to know if Wayne State offers any Native American law studies of any kind. And I would just like to kind of jump in. We have an excellent Native American Indian law expert in Kirsten Matoy Carlson, who is also an expert on legislative oversight and a number of other things. But she's also a political scientist and has done amazing research in this area. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat about an article she just recently wrote about some Supreme Court decisions. With that, I'll kick it over to Dean Fox.
I think you said everything we need to say.
All right, link is coming your way. It is in the chat. Okay, so I am unsure of what type of law I want to do. How should I go about figuring out which school would be good for me?
That is another tough question. I will tell you the majority of students that I talk to don't know what they want to practice when they graduate, or they think they know what they want to do, and then they graduate with an opportunity to do something completely different. Law school is designed to expose you to as many areas of law as possible, and this is pretty common across all law schools. So what you want to start looking at law schools are those unique factors that are important to you. Obviously, location. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to work? What kind of opportunities does the law school have? Those are the things you want to think about. What you will practice will come. And I'm going to toss this to Christina so she can talk a little bit about her experience making a decision about where she's going to work, because Christina does have a job waiting for her after the bar exam.
Woo. Yeah, I would say that I came in thinking, oh, I for sure want to do business law. Like, that's me for sure. But then I, practiced it, got a job involving like transactional and business law. And I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I wasn't like excited to go to work. And so, the next thing I did was try out some of the clinics and externships at the law school so that I could get, my school credits, but also get experience like practicing these different areas of law. And then, once I was done with those, I just got law school jobs, and like one of them was in property, and I was like, oh, I like this, but maybe it's not for me. And then I found my way into a job where I work in fraud litigation, and I really like that because it's very interesting. No day is going to be the same, and you have all these very interesting stories. But I think the best thing was for me to just not feel like I have to know what I'm doing and I have to stick with this. It's to be open to trying all the different clinics and externships and getting these jobs in areas of law and taking those classes about an area that you might be interested in. That's what I did, and I think that worked out the best for me because I kept my mind open to the possibility of it being something that maybe I didn't think that I would want, but I do now. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. So that was actually our last question. It took us right up until the end. So I'm going to kick it back to Dean Fox to close things out.
I just want to thank you all for spending this last hour with us. I think the best piece of information I can give you is to email or call the office. Kaylee, would you put our office line in the chat as well as our Law Inquirer email? We are here to help you through this process. If you are here and thinking Wayne Law is for you, you definitely want to talk to us if you have questions. My goal is to admit as many people to law school as I possibly can. I want to have a robust community in our school, and I want to have students that want to be there. And our job is to answer those questions. So don't feel like you can't call and ask, or is this a stupid question? I will tell you that we have ambassadors like Christina working in the office, and more times than not, the questions get kicked to the ambassadors. And then you can really have an honest conversation about their experience and what they think. They're there to give you the student perspective. So call, email, let's get together. Let's talk about why you should come to Wayne Law. So thanks again for spending time with us. And I look forward to seeing all of your applications as I am reading for the upcoming years. Good luck applying.